Hello everyone to another episode of Bible Illustrated Hands, or in this case, pomegranate seeds. I don't want anyone to try to attempt to explain this episode with the fruit. I'm just a huge fan of pomegranates. In any case, I got a question from a user on Instagram. He asked me what is the position of the Orthodox Church on homosexuality, and why did God create gay people? I wanted to make a pencils and prayer ropes episode on this, but considering how often I get requests on this particular subject, I decided to make this episode first and simply work the pencils and prayer ropes episode on this later. First of all, I want to address the elephant in the room, and this is something that a lot of Orthodox and Catholics sadly do not know, and that is that the Bible never speaks nor knows the concept of homosexuality. The Bible does speak of men having sex with men and women with women, but it never sees it in a way of sexual attraction, you know? It literally never speaks about what about people who are attracted to opposite sex. It usually sees men having sex with men and women with women as people being obnoxious and simply pushing the limits of their depravity. That is the case with Sodom. That is the case when Paul speaks of it in the Epistle of Romans. It does not speak of a shy guy who attends his college and just happens to like other guys. Does that make why am I emphasizing this? Gays are not in some state of perpetual sin just for being attracted to men. There are a number of Orthodox and Catholics who think that this is true, whereas it's not. Homosexuality is simply a temptation. And as men, as people, as human beings, that is what I meant, we're all attracted to some kind of sin, or, as the case would have it, majority of sins. I think that we shouldn't classify ourselves, I'm tempted by this or that, but more like, well, I'm not tempted by this or that. For example, personally, I'm not tempted to commit sorcery, even though I did do that. But someone may do it. Maybe it will be a simple, divination by coffee, or maybe it be maybe some complicated ritual magic. But in essence, homosexuality is simply a temptation. So you do not commit any sins by being tempted by men, if you're a male, of course. But of course, fantasizing about sex is a sin in Christianity, but that is the case for all. Sexual orientation in that regard plays no role. Now, did God create gay people? Yes, He did, but let me emphasize that God did not create homosexuality. Homosexuality is simply a mark of this fallen world upon gay people. Again, it's not there especially branded by something horrible. This is the case with all people. We all have inclinations to sin, and simply gay people have it manifest in them in that way. It will be some other way with other people. So gays aren't some special sinners, so to speak. They're not. There's literally no difference when it comes to different categories of sin. And I would even go so far that being tempted by something more problematic is a great potential for great sainthood. There are some people in Orthodox Church who have achieved great sanctity. For example, Father Seraphim Rose. There are others, probably. You will see veiled and not so veiled references to homosexuality in the lives of the saints, and especially of the Desert Fathers, where, you're surrounded by men, and it is bound to happen and to be referenced here or there. So the main issue with homosexuality isn't lust. When gay people look into Christianity, their biggest problem is, and this is always the case without fail, is that, oh, I don't want to die alone. It has to do with loneliness. It doesn't have to do with sex. Of course, sex is pleasant. We all like sex, and we should, because if we didn't like sex, humanity would literally die out on within 60 years of its formation. Moment. So, what should we? How should a gay person act if he or she decides to become Orthodox? Well, Christian in general. But let me just pay lip service to to this person. Celibacy is mandatory, but there are a lot of buts in this case. The Lord is very direct when he says that we shouldn't engage in extramarital sex, and no Christian denomination worth its salt should ever encourage homosexual unions. However, lust isn't the biggest sin one can commit. And the Desert Fathers are very direct on this. Why? Lust is one of those sins that makes us feel human the most, and that is a very good thing, because if there were no lust, we would all perish of pride. Lust is in a way an inbuilt anti-pride system that allows us not to think too highly of ourselves, and it is a very good system, because we rarely feel bad when we feel pride. Pride feels very good, but when we commit sexual sins, we often feel yucky and so on, and thank God for that, because it it immediately resets us. The split second someone thinks he or she is a saint, when they commit sexual sins, they sort of see that, well, things are not going that well, and I think that people get liberated from sexual temptations only when they can handle pride, and because pride is one of those extremely difficult sins to manage, only a few people ever truly conquer it. Do I have some special advice for gay people? Well, this is a pastoral issue, and this should be, discussed by one's spiritual father, not me. I'm a reader. I don't have, the grace to save souls and so on, to counsel. But I can give some general advice, and that is that gay people can and should invest their time into quality friendships. People usually assume that they will die alone only if they don't have a significant other. That isn't true. Even if you have a significant other, the odds are 50-50 that you won't die alone, but that will mean that your partner will die alone. However, if we are surrounded by a large circle of friends with whom we attempt to have quality friendships, I think that that is a good way for gay people to how shall I put it? That is a good way for them, to combat any temptations of loneliness, and that is a strong temptation, and Satan knows it very well, and that is where he primarily attacks gay people, not via sexual sins. I hope this was of some use to you, and I hope I enjoy my pomegranate. just stick with the Lord. It is all about Christ. Fornication isn't the end of the world. We all fall to it in some way or the other, and just keep praying about it, and remember that you're not alone in this, and that Lord understands that we are simply, fallen people who live in a world that's drowning in evil. So simply try to do your best and pray. Goodbye.